Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Having recently come across this utter cancer that has been put up on the likes of Kristi Winters' channel, these supposed reasonable questions for anti-social justice warriors, I thought I might have a crack at answering them. Fair enough, I'm new, but I'll give my perspective too.
Are you able to understand the irony of responding to the perceived political correctness of the left with exasperated reactionary hypersensitivity of your own?
Yeah, I could see the irony in that personally, but in all the anti-social justice warriors that I personally follow, I have never seen anybody act in the way that the social justice warriors act. For example, like say the Amazing Atheist, who does get very animated in his videos, but I have yet to see him take a place in the speech of a prominent feminist and wave his arms and shout and bawl and whatever else that he could do to disrupt the conference. That seems to be more of a social justice warrior act.
What is it with you people and skulls?
As many people have told you in the past in videos that I've watched, skulls are cool.
How do you define right-wing? Anti SJWs often have an aversion to being labelled as right-wing, yet they regularly defend the right and bash the left. Therefore, why is being labelled right-wing a bad thing to you? And if it's because right-wing is used as a pejorative, can you not see how labelling people as SJWs or regressives is also pejorative?
Right-wing's just quite simply a political position, whether you're on the example left, right, or as many of the anti-social justice warriors, as you put it, are mainly in the centre. The reason why we don't like being called right-wing is because it's inaccurate. We want to be labelled accurately as centre-left, things like that, not right-wing.
Rather than telling people you disagree with to drink bleach, wouldn't it be more productive for you to have an actual conversation about the issues you feel matter? Or is it just easier to do the bleach thing?
This is actually just a very common joke that you seem to have missed. People aren't telling you to drink bleach. People are just quite simply saying that they would rather drink bleach than listen to the nonsense points that are brought up by some social justice warriors.
You claim to be proponents of rational, logical, evidence-based argumentation. That's great. That's entirely laudable. But when I look at your online activity, when I look at, for example, your Twitter feed, that's often not what I see. How do you reconcile this claim to be evidence-based and rational and logical against stuff like, oh, I was just trolling you, oh, I was just shitposting, or TLDR?
So does that mean that every time that a post's made or a video is made by an anti-social justice warrior, it always has to be serious? I mean, I could give the example of people who make videos like Teal Deer, who do nothing but go through feminist videos, feminist surveys, to point out the inaccuracies. So what's wrong with the rest of us having a little fun and shitposting every now and again?
No, seriously? What is it with you people and skulls?
No, seriously, they're still cool.
Are you aware that the ridiculous buzzwords you helped to popularize, like SJW and cuck and regressive, have all lost whatever meaning they once had and only serve now as casual insults and pejoratives to derail any meaningful conversation?
Are you aware that phrases like cuck and regressive were always insults? They haven't lost their meaning, they've retained it because they're still insulting. And they don't necessarily derail a conversation. The only people that make it derail a conversation are people like you, who when somebody calls you a cuck, you have to focus on the fact that you were just called a cuck instead of continuing on the conversation. To me, it's the same as somebody calling me an asshole. You can call me an asshole, it's not going to change my point.
For the last time, what is it with you people and committing actual literal felonies? Like, you might want to work on that? I mean, I thought the Ralph retort was so rational when he was fantasizing about beating up women with dyed hair, but then he assaulted a police officer, and finally I was convinced.
I'm just going to say to start this one, I've never heard of the guy that you're mentioning here. He may very well have done these things. People are going to be people. The big question is, how can you fling mud like this and expect not to have mud flung back? Because the anti-social justice warrior community isn't the only one that's had dissension in its ranks, I suppose you would say. As you'll probably notice by the videos, one of which is Hannibal the Victor 13, who, as far as I'm aware, had some form of conviction for sex offences. The second one is Jenny McDermott, who is now famous amongst the anti-social justice warrior community and the social justice warrior community, because the social justice warrior community put their faith in this woman, tried to help her, and it turned out she was scamming.
In videos and in the comment sections, anti-feminists often take up the most extreme or the weakest feminist position they can find, or they just straight up misrepresent what the feminist position is. Instead, why not take up the strongest, most robust feminist argument you can find and really challenge yourself?
We simply answer to whatever points are raised that are popular. For example, for yourself, I have seen you on comment sections, and I have been in the past more than willing to have a discussion with you about whatever subject, but it seems whenever I have made an answer to whatever point you have made, usually in response to mine, you just disappear. So how can we be expected to have any form of discussion or discourse when you're only halfway involved anyway?
I am deeply concerned with male addiction rates, suicide rates, and abuse rates, because I have worked with these issues in the quote-unquote real world. Would you be willing as anti-feminists to put aside your differences with feminists for the greater good of addressing these issues, especially as the kind of solutions needed are not necessarily gendered? And if so, I would actually like you to let me know, because I'm not fucking around or presenting any gotchas here. I actually really think that we could get something done if we work together. So, yeah.
Personally, I like to think that if I'm in a position that I can help and I have opportunity to help, whether it be man, woman, child, Martian, whatever, I'd like to think that I would take up that option, but it's not always feasible. I will admit here that I am a poor Scotsman from a small town in Scotland, and I have 2 kids to look after, so sometimes it's just not possible on my part, but if there's something that I can do, I like to think that I would do it.
What is third wave feminism? Because I've often heard you folks insist that you have no objection to feminism in general. It's specifically third wave feminism that you have a quarrel with. So what is third wave feminism specifically? And what specifically about third wave feminism do you have such a problem with?
I'm going to extend out a point here that I've seen quite a few videos in response to the Steve Shive sections of this video that you can't be expected to ask anybody any questions when you want answer questions. If you want answers to questions, try unblocking people on Twitter.
Why is it that this feminist represents all feminists, but this men's rights activist doesn't represent all men's rights activists?
Whoa, wait, sexism all of a sudden? Ladies and men are different? So we're supposed to punch men and not hit ladies and open doors for men, but not ladies? Fuck you, get out of my face, you tiny piece of shit.
I wouldn't personally say that Jigglypuff is an example of all feminists, but she is an example of the worst of feminists. For example, she's taken herself to a public place with the direct intention of disrupting a speech that is to be listened to by potentially an entire auditorium filled with people. If Jigglypuff and the other social justice warriors hadn't been there, it would have been a quiet and calm discussion about modern problems. Instead, Jigglypuff drew attention to herself. So, I don't know how you could make any comparison to anyone else. As for the guy in the video, he may be a representative of men's rights activists. I'm not a men's rights activist personally. I prefer to think myself as gender egalitarian. I would rather just see everybody have the same rights. But, yeah, the guy's a douche. What more do you expect?
Why am I continually asked to answer for the views of feminists if I agree with feminism's overall aims, but don't agree much with those particular feminists? Does that mean that I can ask you to answer for anybody who labels themselves similarly to you, even if you don't agree much?
I don't think you're being asked to answer for the views of the feminists because you agree with them. But in my opinion, people are simply looking for a point of view of someone with a similar point of view, if you will. You self-identify as a feminist, so people are probably going to ask you about, why do you think Trigglypuff did what she did? Why do you think, I don't know, Jessica Valenti wrote this article? Things like that. Because you seem to be of an opinion that agrees with them. So they're just trying to find some clarification. Yeah, there are people who, in their way of speaking, don't make it seem like they distinguish between the individual they're talking to and the group. But at the end of the day, you can either just say, I'm not that person, or, well, in my opinion, you don't have to answer specifically for that person.
If SJWs are bad because they spend too much time whining and don't talk about real problems, then why aren't you talking about those problems instead of just whining about the other people over and over and over for literally years? I mean, in the scale of priorities, that's like even lower, right? You know, you've got the real problems, you've got the things that feminists worry about, and then you've got you going, how dare they? Just, how dare they have different priorities from me? Why can't they do what I do? Whine about whining forever for a living. That's healthy.
I have heard the point made more than once that these opinions are discussed because, quite simply, to get views. These things are popular at the time, so it will get views if you go against these points. But there is also the side point, in my opinion, that these things are pushed to the front society. For example, I would say that Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn going to the UN to ask to have cyberbullies dealt with because they see themselves as being victims of attack, even though, especially in the case of Anita Sarkeesian, she posts out wrong information. But I would say that the likes of the wars in the Middle East at this point in time are more important in the grand scheme of things. But the problem is that we can't talk about things like that because the popular feminist narrative is being pushed to the forefront.
Why don't you seem as concerned with actual feminist theory in academia as you are with wrecking people for views?
Wrecking people for views makes more money on YouTube. It brings in the views.
Since so many of you profess to be admirers of second-wave feminism as opposed to third-wave feminism, I thought it would be interesting to ask which second-wave feminists in particular do you appreciate? Which books written by second-wave feminists have you read and found interesting? Which second-wave feminist activists have you specifically admired as you formed the opinion that you like second-wave feminism but you have no use for third-wave feminism? I'm just curious.
I stand by my earlier point, to be honest. I refuse to answer any questions by Steve Shives because, for one thing, he comes across as very disingenuous. For another thing, he's shut down all conversation through his YouTube platform, through his Twitter platform, through his social media platform. So why is it that he would expect to have any questions that he has answered in a public forum?
You do understand that reading the title of a book or an article or watching the first 15 seconds of a video is not going to give you a deep, nuanced understanding of what that book or article or video is about, right? That being said, how can you expect to understand or critique feminist sources if you don't even attempt to understand what they're trying to say?
What makes you think that all that we are doing is judging books by their covers? Who's to say that we don't actually try to understand the points that are made, just simply disagree with them?
Why is trying and failing to debunk a study into sexual assault the number one priority for a rational thinker now? Does it maybe say something about your priorities? Nah, it's fine, it's the feminazis, we have to stop them. They're taking away our video games. Look, Anita, I'm sorry, but I can't... We can't actually destroy video games. That doesn't make any sense.
I'm only going to take an assumption here that you're talking about studies in the likes of the 1 in 4 women in college are going to be sexually assaulted study, which was proven wrong. And even the authors of the study were saying, don't use this is inaccurate. But yet this still gets parroted by social justice warriors and feminists. Or studies that go on about things like the wage gap, which has been proven to be wrong. It's not a wage gap, it's an earnings gap. Men are more likely to stay at work longer than women are. Women are more likely to take jobs where they're more flexible, they can worry about childcare, things like that. So why are you more interested in touting wrong information than you are being accurate in your beliefs? Also, just a quick addition. Whoever told you were funny, mate, they lied. You're not funny. I don't see why you're adding in all this bullshit about calling up Anita Sarkeesian and say, we can't destroy video games, it doesn't make sense. That's not funny. I don't get the joke.
One of the major arguments that I see in many of your videos is that it is possible to separate criticism of the religion of Islam from the actual Muslim people. And yet, this line seems to be crossed very often. I see things like raghead or camel fucker or other things like that in your comment sections. I see people taking very serious shots at Muslims in videos and hangouts, and they don't get called out. At least not that I can see. So my question is this: why should a person of conscience who is concerned about the Muslim people and their community not being harmed or mistreated, why should they believe that you're actually only attempting to look at the ideas and talk about the ideas if you ignore bigotry that's occurring right in front of you? And in that light, would you be willing to break bread and salt with moderate Muslim people on your videos, have hangouts, invite them to your channels, just in order to build some bridges there and to learn more about what they think and how they feel and what their experience has been, so that information and knowledge can be furthered?
You're talking about the problems that are current in society with the Islamic community, where people are scared. There's no other way around about it, in my opinion. People out there are scared, and fear quite quickly turns to anger. So, yeah, well, I don't personally agree with people in comment sections being on about camel fucker or raghead or Arab or whatever they want to call other people. I can understand why, when there's a community out there who have people doing horrible things in the name of their shared religion, and these people are standing up saying, yeah, but that's not what we're all about. How's about, instead of standing up and defending your own point, how's about standing up and critiquing the other point? These people standing up and willingly saying, we're not the same. We don't believe that everywhere should be Sharia. We don't need to do this by force. These preachers that keep getting caught preaching in Western societies, in the United States, and the United Kingdom, and Europe, wherever, saying that they support ISIS, things like that. Why are these so-called moderate Muslims not standing up and saying, it's terrible, these people are perverting their religion? And yes, I would personally be quite happy to sit in a hangout in a room, wherever, with a moderate Muslim, to sit and have a conversation about things like this, to find out a moderate Muslim's point of view, have the conversation there. I may not agree with them at the end of it, but at least we'd have a clearer understanding of each other.
Do you deny that systemic racism against black people is like a thing in general? If so, what? Okay, just step over, just cover your ears for a second and let the smart people talk. If not, why is it so much more important to you to demonize groups like Black Lives Matter than to actually use your platforms to discuss actual solutions to issues surrounding race and racism?
I am going to use my personal experience here to try and answer this question in the best way that I know how. And basically I'm going to answer this as a Scotsman, because the thing that people who are involved in the likes of Black Lives Matter and things like that seem to forget is that it isn't only black people that were in slavery. Now, yeah, fair enough, I am going to stand at the point and say that because of black people having black skin, they are instantly pointed out. It's an instant marker. So, yeah, there are racists out there that look at the colour of a person's skin and say, yep, he's black, he's whatever. But as a Scotsman, I mean, Scottish people were sold into slavery at one point in time. At one point in time in Scotland, there was a law called Prima Nocta, which anybody who's seen Braveheart knows what that is. It was the law that said that on the night of a young couple's marriage, the young woman would go to the home, to the castle of the local lord, and would share his bed for that night, and it was an attempt to breed out the Scots to get them to be more compliant. And even in modern day, there is videos out there. I mean, there's one video that I know of that came out recently where we had a large party in the UK called the Tory Party in the UK Parliament making jokes and making light of the fact that they sold Scots into slavery. This is in modern day. And there's also the point that a lot of English hold prejudices to Scotland. I mean, the most common example that I could think of in places like this is the money, because money in Scotland and England is different. And if an Englishman goes into any shop in Scotsman and hands over English money, it says pounds sterling on the front of it, so it's legal tender in Scotland, so they just quite simply take it and put it in their tills. A lot of the time, if people go down to from Scotland to England and pay with Scottish notes, a lot of shopkeepers will look at it and go, I don't know if we can take this. Now, as I've already said, I know in history that the English and the Scottish were at war. There's things there that there could be animosities, but the only way that I can see of either side moving forward is if we say that was in the past. We can quite simply look at it and say, yeah, bad things may have happened to my ancestors, but they didn't happen to me.
If you've ever discussed or done a video about black on black crime, when are you going to do a video about white on white crime and what we as white people can do to solve the problems in our community?
I personally am fairly new to YouTube. I've just started my channel, so I've never made a video on black crime. But as it stands, I could see why people aren't making videos about white on white crime, because it's not statistically relevant. If the equal number of black people are attacking black people as to white people are attacking white people, but the white population is so much larger than the black population, then it's obviously a larger problem in the black community. So that's why I think more people are making videos about black on black crime.
Why is a literal teenager's different definition of racism from you so horrifying that you all have to go, No! No, we have to stop him! We've got to debunk him now! Ah!
In response to the video that you're talking about, people were so upset by the video that was posted by Milo Stewart is because he's blatantly wrong. He's making a point to say that all cis people are transphobic, all white people are racist, whatever our other point was, I can't remember at this point in time. It's labelling people wrongly, which is the same as one of the previous questions where you were asking about left wing or right wing. Why do you get so upset when people call you right wing? Because we don't want to be mislabelled. Now, in the point of Milo Stewart, the way I see it personally, yeah, granted, I'm an adult male, and I am putting my opinions on the internet. Now, for all I know, the only person who might ever watch these videos is going to be me. For all I know, I might end up with 1 million subscribers. I don't know at this point in time. Let's see how it goes. But the point is, if somebody watches my video and says, haha, die faggot, that's not the point where I delete my videos, switch the computer off, and go into the shed to tie myself a noose. That's the point where I'll look at it and say, somebody called me a faggot. Now, why should it be any different? Why should Milo Stewart be mollycoddled when he put his opinions on the internet? He's bound to get the same shit that the rest of us are going to get. So why is it that he deserves any special treatment? Because he's young? Because he's transgender? Why?
Wherever did you get the idea that racism was a self-applied identity? And if the only true racists are the racists who self-identify as racists, how can we ever expect to make any social progress to reduce racism? Or did I just answer my own question?
Yeah, my previous point still stands. Fuck off, Steve.
You often say that you are for equality of opportunity, but if people of color, for instance, have to overcome barriers whites do not, such as discrimination and unequal treatment, as are well documented in various studies, then how can the current situation be thought of as equal opportunity in any real way? And why do you consider it racist to discuss these issues?
I don't consider it racist to discuss these issues. I don't believe that these issues are as prominent in society as they're made out to be by the social justice community. But on a case-by-case basis, if somebody was to come to me and say, I didn't get that job, why did you not get the job? Because the guy's probably a racist. That's just the point where I'm going to say, well, you're just making assumptions here. But if somebody comes to me and says, I didn't get the job because the boss there's a racist, well, how do you know the guy's a racist? He came out laughing and joking with a couple of the guys saying he's never going to hire any niggers. That's the point where I'll be standing next to the guy saying, right, what do we do? But I'm not going to just jump up and down on accusations.
Do you understand basic English syntax? Like, you know, if I say this cat is pretty, I don't mean that all other cats aren't pretty. Like, do you really not get why saying all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter is not only racially insensitive, but just patently ridiculous?
How does basic syntax make this any better? Black Lives Matter have been jumped up and down every time somebody says that all lives matter. In the same argument, do you not realise the fact that saying all lives matter does not mean that we're saying that black lives don't? Now, Black Lives Matter seems to have pushed itself into being, I don't want to say a joke, because jokes are funny. Black Lives Matter isn't, because they may have actually started with reasonable goals. Now, statistically, from my understanding, black people and non-black people being shot in America isn't as big a problem as you would think. But it is a problem. There I can stand, that's something that I could say, yeah, this guy, you can prove to me he was shot unjustly. We want to have a march about it. We want to have police officers wear body cameras. We want to have reasonable questions to be answered. That's fine by me. I'm willing to stand in the trenches with these people. But the way Black Lives Matter have pushed themselves, it's now doing things like blocking Toronto's Pride Parade and making them sign documents to say that Black Lives Matter is more important than the gay pride because the black people are more downtrodden than the homosexuals of Toronto. Black Lives Matter recently put out a video that I am aware of that they were going on about climate crisis being a racist crisis, and because they're wanting to extend, I think it's Heathrow Airport, it's going to mean that more black people are going to live in bad conditions because of noise pollution for the aircraft, things like that. Now, to me, there's 2 points behind that one. One is, if we're looking at immigrants to the country, they're going to be poor. Now, poor people are going to have to take lower quality housing. Where do people not want to live? Next to airports, because they're noisy. Now, next to those airports, it's not just black people. There are black people, white people, Pakistani people, Hindu people, I don't know, pick a group of people, they're probably there. So you can't necessarily say that this is a racist issue when it affects multiple groups. But according to Black Lives Matter, this is a racist issue. Now, yeah, there are points that if Black Lives Matter had stuck to, I would have agreed with them. But they pushed themselves to this joke, which isn't funny. It's missing the punchline.
Isn't it offensive to men to assume that a man could only ever want equality for women and therefore be comfortable with feminism as a whole in order to get laid, and that reduces us to beasts? If that was the case, wouldn't I attempt to get laid from my views instead of not ever trying that?
Well, for one thing, how do we know that you've never actually tried to use your beliefs to get with somebody that you like? Now, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know what your beliefs are. I don't know if you stand by your beliefs, if you're doing this to just try and fit in with a group, if you believe it wholeheartedly, and I don't care. I don't see why it is that you seem to have this stigma against all people who do things to get with women. The reason why a lot of people probably think that is because everybody has done something stupid at one time or another because they've been wanting to get with a woman.
If you say you're an egalitarian, will you call out the man-hating slurs that you see coming from people within your community? People who use terms like cuck, beta male, faggot, or mangina All of these things basically distill men down into thinking that the most important thing about them is to be having sex with a woman. That's rather offensive. So what are you doing to stop this kind of behavior in your community?
Alright, Kristi, I can honestly tell you now that I am going to do absolutely nothing about the way that people choose to use words. Because for one thing, it may just be a personal thing or because of the area in which I live. But if somebody like you was to listen to a conversation between me and my friends, you probably wouldn't think we even liked each other. Because we are constantly on each other's case about, hey, fuckface, give me that air. Hey, fuckface, I need such and such. Hey, asshole, come here a minute. So, I don't see why these words should be raised to a point where it makes us misogynistic beasts or whatever point you're trying to make here. Because I don't see my personality as being defined by the words I choose to use. Now, as I've just said, I can sit with my best friend and say, hey, you prick, come here. I need a hand sold on such and such, or whatever I'm doing at the time. Why is it such a problem for people like yourself that I am willing to sit with friends and call them arseholes? And on the other point, somebody who I don't agree with, why should I worry about words? Especially, let's say I'm having an argument with yourself. You have a moment of pure frustration and you say, you're nothing but a misogynistic arsehole. Is that the point where I should be heading out to the garage and tying myself a noose? No, those words aren't going to affect me. So why should I have to stamp out words like this being used when people should be big enough and strong enough to take it as whatever?
What is the number of followers, the number of likes, the number of dislikes, the number of retweets, the number of subscribers, any of those numbers, any of those metrics, what have they got to do with the argument? Deepak Chopra, for example, a man who trots out an endless stream of pseudoscientific quantum woo bollocks, has nearly 3 million followers. So what? Those people follow him because he tells them what they want to hear. Why even mention the number of followers you have? What difference does it make?
I would personally say that in the grand scheme of things, the number of followers, subscribers, retweets, whatever that you have is pretty much irrelevant to the conversation, except for the fact that it shows that your opinion is more popular, is more agreed with, whatever point you want to stand on here. It just, to me, the only thing that will show is a consensus between yourself and others. But the problem is, using things like that, it only shows a consensus between you and possibly your followers, your subscribers, whatever you want to call them. It doesn't necessarily show a consensus with the wider population. So, yeah, they may be pointless. But in the case of the likes of the Amazing Atheist or someone like that, who has 1 million subscribers, he must be saying something that a lot of people are agreeing with, or he wouldn't have 1 million subscribers.
Why is it that you go on and fucking on about safe spaces and trigger warnings and delicate little flowers, but continue to hide behind your cartoon avatars and your childish pseudonyms? And whenever anyone calls you out on your sexist, racist, homophobic, bigoted rhetoric, you become the argument of your own scorn and are hashtag triggered, as they say.
Well, Michael, I'm going to take this as a point of admission that you're still rather butthurt, bearing brutally arse-raping you on the internet. But as the point stands, the reason why we don't like the idea of safe spaces is because we find them to be ridiculous. But why we use avatars on the internet is because we didn't want to have to deal with the internet stuff in real life. Prime example would be Laughing Witch when she tried to get Thunderfoot fired from his job for having opinions that differed from hers. Now, while you are probably going to sit there and say, I wouldn't try anything like that, I am more than willing to hear other people's points of view. So I wouldn't try to silence somebody in that way. People out there are going to be willing to try to fuck up your life just to hear something you've said on the internet, just because they disagree with you. That's why we prefer to use anonymous avatars as to showing the real faces, because we didn't want our real lives to be affected by what we say on the internet.
Are you willing to publicly acknowledge and admonish the massive amount of hatred, bullying, harassment, and intimidation that a lot of your fans infringe upon people. And I don't mean these tiny disclaimers that you put under the description fold or flash for 2 seconds at the beginning of the video that you know nobody reads. I mean a public and ongoing anti-bullying stance. Or do you kind of like watching your fans go around harassing people and calling them slurs and telling them to kill themselves? You kind of like it, don't you? I mean, if that's your thing, I guess that's just what you're into. Just makes you a dick.
I'm a new YouTuber personally. I've only just started my channel. I don't really have any subscribers at this point in time, so I'm not really speaking for experience here. But in the likes of YouTubers that I have seen that are getting accused of this sort of thing, like say for example Bearing, I agree with his stance on it, where he says that it would be very disingenuous of him to be able to go to a video, make a response video saying whatever he disagrees with in the points, and then telling his audience, I can say whatever I want about this video, but yous aren't allowed to say anything. Now, while I am willing to give up the point and say, yeah, these people, if they've got something that they want to air on the channel, I would have no problem with my subscribers going across to another video and saying, I think you're wrong, because blah blah blah. I wouldn't want my subscribers to go across to another video and say, haha, die faggot. But it may happen. It may not. I can't be held accountable for every subscriber that does something because they see one of my videos. I don't see why it is that people like yourself have this idea that I should have all of my subscribers leashed. The likes of Bearing should have all his subscribers leashed, or not make videos on videos that they found that are, in their opinion, wrong, they're against their own points of view, they're problematic to the society that we live in. So why is it that you seem to think that we should have this power? And do you have that very same amount of power on your audience?
Why do you find it so hard to believe that feminists are being harassed online?
I don't find it in the slightest bit difficult to believe that feminists are being harassed online. And the reason why I could say that is because everybody gets harassed online. It's not exactly a nice place. But I'm going to assume that you're talking about feminists who have had response videos made to them, things like that. Or even if you're going to go back to the point of the likes of Anita Sarkeesian, who has blatantly lied in a lot of her videos. The example that I'm going to drop here is a personal example, and it's from one of her recent videos where she was talking about one of the Saints Row games. I think it was Saints Row 3, where she's talking about you can go and get yourself a sex change in the game, which is very progressive. But if you get a sex change, you come out with a new wiggle, which isn't true. The way that Saints Row 3 and 4, if I remember correctly, work is, yeah, you can go into one of the plastic surgery places, you can have a sex change, you can go from male to female, but after you make that decision, you choose your walk cycle, and there are multiple walk cycles. There's macho, there's normal, there's feminine, there's catwalk. So whoever has put together her section of the video there has made a male character with the male walk and went to one of these places in the game, had the sex change operation and selected the new female walk cycle. So it's not something that's forced upon the player for a sex change. It's something that you can choose. Now, Saints Row, as I say, I personally have Saints Row 3 and 4, and it's one of the things that myself and my friends like to play because it's a good laugh, because you can have really big, tough-looking guy who walks like he's walking down a catwalk. So it's things like that we find hilarious. It may be childish, but it's a point that she's raised that I know through personal experience is wrong. So examples like that where our research is either blatantly wrong or blatantly fabricated, why are you willing to stand with her and say she only wants to see changes? I mean, the big example that I could think of with Anita Sarkeesian is the Tomb Raider argument that I've heard people like the Amazing Atheist and things like that also bring up, where the original Lara Croft was originally derided because she had too large breasts. And then they rebooted the Tomb Raider franchise just a couple of years ago there When they rebooted the franchise, they made Lara Croft more realistic, more athletic. And the first thing Anita Sarkeesian came out and did was they've taken away the symbol of her femininity. So there's an argument that we just can't win. If her breasts are too big, people like Anita Sarkeesian aren't happy. If her breasts are normal size to a normal athletic woman, it's wrong.
Do you understand the key importance of reproducibility and repeatability in scientific research? That's simply going to Google Scholar, doing a 30-second search for keywords and pulling out the first paper you find that backs up your stance is not a particularly credible way to do research. That you have to have a much broader overview, to read the material, to follow the citations through, to look at the broad brush approach to a particular problem. You do realise that you're as much of a social justice warrior as those you critique. It's just that you espouse a different form of social justice, a rather less considerate, rather less forgiving, rather less kind form of social justice.
I'm going to answer that question with a question. You see, you do realise that when even the authors of studies are telling you don't use our study, it's blatantly wrong and skewed, that you shouldn't continue to use it. Again, I'm going to cite the 1 in 4 women in colleges and universities are going to be sexually assaulted study, where even the people who authored the study were saying don't use this, it's wrong. Now, you're talking about yours being more forgiving and more understanding. Now, if we wanted to pull that one apart, it's really quite easy, because in the way that a lot of social justice warriors are trying to push your system, it seems to be trying to get rid of things like due process. If we look at the blatantly wrong accusations of rape in the last few years, the like, say, I Stand With Jackie, the like, say, lacrosse, the Duke lacrosse team, things like that, where we know for a fact that these people did nothing wrong, but feminists and social justice warriors have been willing to stand with the people who have made these accusations, even after they've been proven wrong. Again, the I Stand With Jackie hashtag, after it was proven that there was no crime committed, there were still feminists who were putting out hashtags saying, I still stand with Jackie. So how can you claim that your version of social justice is more forgiving?
If you identify as an egalitarian, then I'm interested in your take on the usefulness of the concept of the original position as laid out by John Rawls in his theory of justice.
Kristi, by the way that you've given everybody that shit-eating grin, we could tell that you're trying to prove that because I've read this, I know more than you. And if we're going to give each other reading assignments, how's about you tell me your opinions on the social structure of Sharpe's Revenge by Bernard Cornwell?
As a supporter, as a proponent of freedom of speech, why do you want to quash academic freedom? If you're not familiar with the concept of academic freedom, it's worth, in the UK at least, looking up the 1988 Education Reform Act and seeing what that says about the rights of academics to put across unpopular opinions.
To put it bluntly, I don't. I just want any information that's going to be taught in an academic space to be accurate. That's as simple as it is. I'm assuming you're talking about, again, the fact that we're bringing down these studies that are known to be inaccurate, or the likes of the petition that was circulated by Sargon Avocad that said that he wanted to suspend all social justice courses, which I signed. I will admit to you now, I signed, because I agree that these social justice courses should be suspended, reviewed, any wrong information taken out of them, any right information that isn't present put into them. That way it's at least intellectually honest.
Why are you so obsessed with Anita Sarkeesian?
Well, not necessarily obsessed with Anita Sarkeesian. The problem is that Anita Sarkeesian has managed to work her way into a position where she is generally attacking a lot of people's favourite hobby, men and women. I mean, I know personally women that don't like Anita Sarkeesian who are gamers because they know that she's blatantly dishonest. That's the reason why people go after her so often, is because she is so blatantly dishonest. In almost every video that she's made, there is at least half a dozen things that I personally can tear apart. And even at that, even in the opinion things that she puts out, like, say, for example, when she was talking about the Guardians in Destiny, saying about how when they're in their armour, you wouldn't even be able to tell them apart, except for if you make them sit down. Now, for one thing, yeah, there are differences in men and women. That has been discussed by Thunderfoot, by you name it. So there are differences in the way that people would sit down. But for another thing, it's totally irrelevant to the gameplay. As a gamer, I'm not interested in how somebody sits down in the common area. I'm interested in how they fight in the game arena. If I'm going to team up with somebody, I want to make sure that this is a person that I can bring into the darkest hole in Destiny, and we're going to walk out covered in the blood of your enemies. We're not going to come out in body bags, I suppose you would put it.
Do you really think you can spend your entire life in a perpetual state of emotional immaturity? Do you actually imagine that you will be able to perpetuate your adolescence for your entire existence? Wait, didn't somebody else ask this one? Wait, I gotta... Ah, fuck.
Yeah, very good. You reused the same question that Sargon of Akkad used in the Amazing Atheist video. How good for you? I don't know who keeps telling you people that these are funny, but it really isn't. Now, I'm just glad to have made it to the end of this cancer, because I've talked myself hoarse for one thing, and for another thing, I think if I was to talk for another, or to watch another 10, 15 minutes of videos like this, I think I would take myself out in the garage and tie my noose, because this is just ridiculous, the way that you feel that you are intellectually superior to everybody else and have to put out these questions, especially in response to a video made by the Amazing Atheist that was obvious parody, but trying to make a serious point, I suppose you would say, by raising questions but trying to be in a funny way, whereas you have just tried to be this cut and dry, and it's horrible. It's no fun. But after watching your points, I felt I had to respond to a lot of this, because a lot of the stuff that you are talking about here, I think is utterly wrong. Now, to anybody who's managed to make it this far through the video, I want to thank you for following me this far. I really want to thank you for sticking with me this far. As you could tell, it was cancerous. Thank you very much for your time. I'll see you next time, guys.
Motherfucker, I was born that way. And just because I wear a skirt, don't think I'm fucking gay, 'cause I'm an evil Scotsman. And Jimmy is my name. I'm a sheep